I want to reveal the great lie that all the marketing gurus out there are saying. And that lie is that they know it all and that they discovered it. That is the biggest lie. If you study all of the biggest greats, they all have the same marketing fundamentals. And I'm going to teach those marketing fundamentals to you over a series. We're going to call it the series of market positioning, how to sell any product in any market. So we're going to talk about just how do you position a product. There are ways to do it. And if you've really paid attention to all the people out there, the great of the great, so Alex Hormozy, Dan Kennedy, Eugene Schwartz, Neil Patel, Russell Brunson, even the non-marketing greats who use it, Andrew Tate. There's a lot of people out there who use the same fundamentals to grow their businesses, to scale other people's businesses, and it all comes down to market positioning. What exactly is market positioning? And these are just marketing fundamentals that if you know these fundamentals, you will be able to sell your product more effectively, more profitably, and survive longer. Now, I want to make it very clear, these secrets do not work if people just don't want your product. What this teaches you is how to revive people's interest in your product, and it also teaches you how to revive a dead market. But what's important to understand is as long as you have a somewhat good product, just a good enough product, frankly, these allow you to scale higher, go farther. So one thing you have to understand is all of the greats out there, they all have the same fundamentals. If you read all their books, listen to their podcasts, watch their videos, they're all kind of saying the same thing. But what's interesting is that they all, for the most part, almost take credit for that. But all of these marketing fundamentals have been true for the test of time. And I'm going to be revealing some of those universal truths when it comes to marketing fundamentals and positioning. What exactly is the foundation of their success? So to know the foundation, you have to study the master's fundamentals. But the great part is if you master these fundamentals, you will be able to do the exact same thing that they are doing. If you master those fundamentals, you can go to any industry, any product, and you can sell it. So I call it persuasion. So persuasion is essentially how you take any product you're trying to advertise and how do I convince someone or persuade them to buy my product? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to take your product and you're trying to pick what's the right emotional state of that person in that market and that person I'm targeting. And then once I understand their emotional state, then I'll know how to persuade them, if that makes sense. So there's 4 steps to persuasion. I'm going to boil these down to make it very simple and very actionable. I'm going to show you examples of ads as well. But to persuade someone, you have to go through 4 different steps. If you do those 4 steps and they're not complicated, you will better make ads that convert. So what are they? So step number 1, you have to know who is your customer. That is so critical. I know it's boring and I know it seems very foundational. It will shock you how many brands we talk to at my agency that who they think their customer is not actually the customer. And that's why you have to start here, because if that is off, it's 100% for sure. That is why your campaigns have stalled, hit a plateau, they're not performing. So you always want to be going back and thinking through, am I targeting the right customer? Am I saying the right things to that customer? And I'll walk you through how to do that. And is it positioned the right way to persuade that ideal customer? So all advertising starts here. Now, what's crazy is that one product may have several different customer bases. So for example, there's a brand that we work with that they sell a light for mechanics. But that light can be applied for mechanics, but can be applied for hikers, for runners, for dog walkers. It can be applied to tow truck drivers. And so that's why you may have one product, but several different customers. And you need to know who they are so that your ad is the most potent it can be to persuade them. Some products may have many different customer types. And that's okay. That's normal. You want to identify who are they, and then of them, who is the best one to start with, or eventually just test all of them. So the skill is that you're trying to acquire. How can I advertise to each of those different customer types uniquely? That's important. As I'll mention several times throughout this video, is if you try to stuff too much in an ad, or if you try to confuse by stuffing too much in an ad, you're going to always lose. It's much better to go a mile deep than a mile wide. What I mean by that is it's much better to focus on one customer type. How can I drill that and go a mile deep on that versus I'm going to kind of be a generalist and try to advertise many customer types at the same time, which I'll show you examples of that. The reason why this is important is because resonance is critical. So for example, I think we all know who Hexclad is. They're a 9-figure pan business. They have a contract deal with that famous chef, Ramsey. That's right, Ramsey. So for example, selling high-end cooking ware to college students is an example of bad resonance. It's the wrong product for the wrong audience because one, they're probably not even looking for cookware, or maybe they are, but especially they don't have the money, the consumable income to spend money on that cookware. So resonance just falls flat. And that's a simple example of being very clear of who the right customer is. So how do you identify these? A few ways. Well, we call them personas. Now, once you identify the persona, that is where you unlock the highest pool of addressable market. So what we think about when we're identifying personas is that the persona with the largest population ability is what's going to give us the highest scale potential. But it doesn't mean it's going to give us the best returns. That for that, you want to identify of those personas, which of their, well, we're going to talk about in a few moments, mass desires is the most potent and the most painful or appetizing. So for example, I think we all know who Mudwater is. Mudwater is a brand that sells a coffee substitute. So if you go and you look through their ads, or you pay attention to them and you kind of stalk how they do their ads, this is the same product, but they're positioning to different types of personas. And how do I know that? Is because they're positioning it to different types of desires. So for example, this is going after people that have gut problems. So they're trying to take their same product and position it to different personas through their pains. So this is for people that have gut problems. They're taking that product. If you have gut problems, this is for you. They're positioning this to people who care about meditation and that want to be able to do deeper meditation. Again, same product, but positioning it to different types of customers based off of their wants. People who want to be focused, calm, and alert. Again, different pain points. People who want the coffee substitute or want to be superhuman. So that goes after a big need, which we'll talk about in a few moments. That is a persistent need of to always be better. People who feel like they have a pain where they're just always nervous and jittery. So I'm not going to go through all these, but each one of these ads is slightly positioned differently to different types of customers based off of different wants, because rest assured, different types of customers will want things for different reasons. Going back to that headlamp brand I told you about. A headlamp a mechanic uses is going to have a different want and desire than someone who's using it to walk a dog or to go hiking, or that's a tow truck driver. It's going to be slightly different, and that's important to understand that. Okay, so recapping, number one, first step to persuasion, find out who your customer is. Second step to persuasion is align and channel the mass desire. This is without a doubt the most important thing you have to uncover. You have to uncover this. If you do not uncover this, this is where campaigns go and die. It's where ad spend goes and dies and leaves your bank account and ends up in the pockets of Zuckerberg. So, for example, Eugene Shores from the book Breakthrough Advertising, he says, a mass desire is a public spread of a private want, meaning it's a massive TAM, total addressable market. A lot of people have this desire, but a lot of them have it internally because not everyone goes around voicing their desires. Why this is important is because if you uncover this, this will be what I call the Mac Daddy reason of why people buy. If you uncover that one mass desire, it is going to unlock everything else. It is the greatest unlock to advertising that exists. But what's important here is that you are not creating a mass desire. You are channeling it. So what that means is you are finding what are the mass desires that people have internally inside their own head, emotionally, and you're trying to uncover that and you're just channeling it. That's it. You do not create mass desires. So for example, I'll read this. It cannot create a desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears, and desires that already exist in the hearts of people and focus those already existing desires onto a product. It's your task not to create a mass desire, but to channel it and direct it. So as advertisers, almost think of it as like your channelers. You're just trying to find where is the desire, and I just want to channel it to focus it on my product. All mass desires have two main categories. You have permanent forces and the force of change. And this is important because you can tap into each one of these, but it's important to know these differences because it will help to inform you where is their mass desire coming from so I can better position my ad for that mass desire. So permanent forces, for example, those are for people who want to live longer, feel better. It's called permanent because from the beginning of time until the end of time, people always want to feel better, look better, feel better about themselves. As they get older, they always want to wish that they looked younger. They're always going to be there. And there's a lot more than that. So your job is to take your product and the permanent force and to channel it, again, a desire that has already existed and will exist until the end of time, but to channel your product to make it fresh, more believable, make it appear as new. Because as humans, we've all been hit with different types of offers and products to do this, but we still spend money on it. Why is that? because they give us something else that makes us hope and feel that it's new and different and believable. So for example, time it takes to lose weight, to fix an eroding car, lose weight without work, fewer wrinkles, losing money. Those are always going to be permanent mass desires people have. So, and people will keep buying these forever as long as they feel like it's new and is giving them something new. So for example, a brand called Mojave, one of their big mass desires are always promoting is to feel better, look better, to feel younger, to look younger, to be more attractive. And from the beginning of time to the end of time, there's always going to be a mass desire, but they're using a new ingredient called collagen to make it seem more believable now. So let's talk about the force of change. This is an important one. I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars a week on brands, and I'll explain why, using the force of change. So the force of change are things that are external that can create mass desires or channel new mass desires. What I mean by that is, for example, the desire to have more money, to look like you have money, for love, for power, for appreciation, for recognition. Those are forces of change that a person, it can be unlocked in a person that's already there in a great way. So for example, that's why movie stars, sports players, supermodels, presidents, rappers, that's why they are such powerful models in our environment in pop culture, because people look to them and they can create a force of change in a mass desire. For example, a new movie star or sports player can unlock a force of change. Okay. So even though these are being created by external people, you can tap into it. So going back to what I said a few moments ago, I used to run advertising for t-shirt brands. I was spending $200,000 a week for one brand selling t-shirts. By tapping into forces of change, desires, based off movie stars, sports players, supermodels, presidents, people who are trying to be president. I can't tell you how much money I made off of Donald Trump and channeling a force of desire he was creating back in 2017, 18. This goes back to what I said a few moments ago. If you confuse, you lose when it comes to this. It's so important. So a lot of people, when I talk about this, is they try to jam a bunch of mass desires in one ad, and you don't want to do that. You want to focus on one mass desire for that one ad and just test different mass desires for different ads. Because if you try to jam in two different mass desires, so let's say I'm trying to jam in looking better and having money, you're going to confuse people. It's much better to focus on one or the other and test them individually. So for example, an example of a force of change is actually this is an ad I saw for a dating coach. Their force of change is they want to have more love or have more self-appreciation or self-esteem through a dating coach. So that's an example. So to recap, so far, the 2 steps of persuasion we covered are know your customer, channeling your mass desire. Now the next one, which I talked about in many other videos, is to identify the awareness states. Every single person in the world is going in and out of what we call awareness states. Meta calls this in-market audiences, meaning people based off of what they're going through will be coming in and out of different market states. For example, if you got a girlfriend, you now became, or a boyfriend, you now became in market for solutions and products for dating, whether that's dating ideas, whether that is dating games, whether that is, and then eventually you became in market to engagement rings. And that's why Meta is so powerful, because it understands different life cycles throughout your own personal life of how you're coming in and out of different, what they call in-market audiences, but we're going to call this awareness states. What are the awareness states? The awareness states are identifying and categorizing those different parts of people's journey that you can tap into something that you can identify and then target and make ads off of. So there's 5 awareness states. You have most aware, product aware, solution aware, problem aware, and unaware. And why I'm going back and I'm making a video about this, because all of the greats that I mentioned before in the video, they all use these exact same fundamentals. So if you can master these fundamentals, you will then become a great, because it's what everyone uses from the beginning of time to the end of time, whether they knew it or not, but we're just trying to quantify it for you. So now you can be aware of it and now make better ads and make more money. Most markets have millions of people that are going in and out of these awareness states. So your job is to understand that and now know how to communicate them, because the further up you go in the awareness state, so this is the furthest, unaware, and the least aware, which is most aware, unlocks more populations of people you can target. So for example, the amount of people in the US who are most aware of a specific ingredient in collagen that's going to help their wrinkles is probably much smaller versus the amount of people in the US who just wish they looked younger and felt better is much bigger. That's a crude example to where once you understand these mass desires, you can then take your product and position them in these different awareness states. So let's dive in. So most aware. These are people who it takes the least amount of effort because they're already the most knowledgeable. So all you're doing is you're simply just naming the product, the price, and you're simply just putting it in front of them. You can educate them, as you can read this right here, give them offers, give them discounts, but these are for people who already know everything about your brand, everything about your product, and essentially you're just incentivizing them to make the purchase. Product aware. So these are for people who they don't fully understand your product, but they're aware of different products in the marketplace. And all you're trying to do is better fit your product to their desire and make it more clear that your product of all the products is the right solution for that mass desire. So all you're trying to do here is just create some kind of wedge, I like to call it, or mainly just uniqueness between you and other products in the space. You're trying to drive a wedge between you and other competitors. And this is the easiest way to do it. So for example, this is a brand called Rise Coffee. They do this very well. And how they're doing it is by putting that wedge is by all their amazing ingredients they have. In that example, when you have a product aware, there's actually 7 ways you can use to stand out. You can sharpen the clarity of the product, build on where, when, and how your product satisfies the mass desire. So for example, they do this based off of all the different amazing superfoods and listing them specifically. So 20 grams and listing the superfoods is a great way of doing that. You can show proof and documentation of that desire, a new mechanism, which we'll talk about a little bit later, or create a separate new mechanism that creates that gap. So there's a lot of ways you can use this. And this is a lot of brands stay here because, gosh, I've seen brands, they did 6 million a year just focusing on product aware. That's it. Because there's so many people that were in market for their product that was quite easy. They just had to drive a wedge and show how they were different than other people. And it was quite easy to do. Then you have solution aware. Okay, solution aware, we're getting a bit harder now, is they know they have a problem and they know they want a solution, but now they're unclear of if there are solutions out there. What are they specifically? Are they brands? Are they services? So what you're trying to do here is you're just plainly stating the solution. You're demonstrating the solution, how it can fulfill the solution by showcasing how your product satisfies that. So a great way of doing that is like a before and after. So the solution here is longer energy. And this ad is doing that quite simply by showing a before and after, that the solution, again, plainly stating the solution and the desire of, oh man, when I drink coffee, energy only lasts for like an hour, but if I drink this thing, energy all day long, right? That's a great example of how it's plainly stating the solution of their current state and their desired state, which is this. Now we're going to problem aware. Problem aware, the prospect knows that they have a problem. They also know that they want to solve that problem and they're motivated to solve that problem, but now they're not quite educated on a solution. So what you're doing here is you're calling out the problem. Call out the problem, call out the need. You could dramatize it if you can, because that's going to make it a bit more potent and painful, but also more attention getting. So that's important. So how you can do that is by being unique and dramatizing it. So this is a great ad by a dog brand, Doggy Dental Crisis. And just by stating that specifically and showing the teeth of a dog, every dog owner on the planet now immediately resonates with that without even being fully aware of the solution to fix that. For example, I had 2 dogs. I was very unaware of what solutions were out there to fix the dog's teeth. I know it can't be good, but I wasn't educated enough. And that's a great example. Well, now they're taking people who they see their dog's teeth, like, oh man, like that can't be good. And now they're running an ad to fix that, especially the fact that a great way of dramatizing it is calling it a crisis, as well as using a vet to explain it, which is a fantastic angle. All right, then we have unaware. So unaware, this is without a doubt the hardest awareness state to unlock. It takes the most amount of education and the most amount of effort to unlock them. And so you have to there's different ways you can do it. You can use secrets, you can use tips, you can use stories. Stories are a great way to unlock this awareness state. So for example, this is a brand that sells a collagen protein bar. They're trying to unlock an unaware state by using a story. We call these viral style graphics and leading them to a landing page. And you can do that again. So this is the form of story. The story, the narrative is she tries 100 protein bars, and everyone knows what a protein bar is. And she narrows it down to these three best. Now it's a secret. And her final choice is eye-opening. That's clickbaity, but also it's using a story narrative to invoke interest to click on that ad and read more about it. So let's recap. So the 4 steps of persuasion so far we've covered is find out who your ideal customer is, tap into the mass desire, position to the 1 of 5 awareness states, and the last one is market sophistication. This is really important for the brands who there's a lot of competition in your space. This is for the type of brands that their market is evolving all the time because there's either more competitors, there's more innovation, there's more people evolving on your products or stealing your products. And it's really hard because I have a brand right now we're working with, and they're just getting smashed right now, absolutely smashed by 100 different brands and affiliates selling their exact same product. And so they're having to go through these sophistication principles on positioning and persuasion. Okay, so the first one is the first stage of market sophistication is people who are first to market. This is the easiest type of industry to advertise in because you're the first to market. You literally have to just be direct and plainly state what you're promoting. That's it. That's all you got to do. So for example, I took Hexclad as an example and made some ads based off that. So Hexclad, for example, if they were the first to market, they literally just have to say what it is. That's it. There's new, there's no one else in the space. It's the least amount of effort you have to put into advertising. Then you have second to market. These are for now businesses that there's competitors in the space. People are aware of the claims because other people are kind of stealing some of the claims now. So what you have to do here is you have to enlarge in the claim. So instead of just saying what it is plainly, now you enlarge in it. So for example, this would be best cookware on the planet, right? You're taking something that people are now aware of, and now you enlarge in it. The third stage of sophistication is now it's not easy anymore. There's a lot of people in the space, a lot of competition. People are starting to copy each other. It's getting frustrating. The moment you do something, they do something, and they're just one-upping each other. So what you have to do here is you have to give them something new. New is one of the greatest things ever said in marketing and advertising, because just by saying new, it brings on a freshness to it. And now people are more interested than without new, because as humans, we're drawn to new things. That's what we call in the business a new mechanism, meaning can you take the same thing, but then reposition it or bring something fresh to it that now makes it interesting again. So for example, that would be something like this. New diamond plated octagon technology, sears and sizzles for 20 years. Exact same pans, exact same benefits, but because there's so many people in the space that now you have to bring a newness to it. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to take the same features and benefits of that product and create something new out of it. But in this case, if you don't know what Hexclad is, they actually have octagon shaped designs that are based off of the diamond crust. And you essentially just call it new and then give a benefit of how long it's going to last. Okay. Then you have cutthroat competition. So in this market sophistication, this is where it's kind of just a nosedive to the bottom. It is just insane. Everyone's just one-upping each other. People are slashing prices because they can't compete anymore. And it's really tough. So what you have to do here is take that same new mechanism and now make it bigger and grander. And by exaggerating it, number one, you're going to draw more attention, but now you're going to make it slightly more believable. So for example, it has to be faster, bigger, last longer, more promises. And I know that's frustrating, but that's just the reality of a highly competitive market. So for example, using Hexclad again, pans as hard as diamonds and lasts longer than cast iron, using a comparison to enlarging it. Never need another set in your life. Again, now we're enlarging the same claim we've had previously that these last a long time. Now we're using pictures with words to identify an entire lifetime, which is a long time. Then we have stage 5, a dead market. At this level, the market's just dead. People just can't survive anymore. All the same products are out there. Nothing is new. Nothing is fresh. At that point, that's when you consider it dead. It's been a race to the bottom on people just discounting. So what you do here is now you have to approach it differently by using what's called identification. So identification is actually a form of niching down to find a blue ocean opportunity. So for example, instead of trying to be a mass market item, you could actually go more narrow, going a mile deep yet again on calling out specific types of consumers and personas. Okay. So for example, in this example, the working mom diet, the entrepreneur diet, the 5-minute ain't got no time mom diet. We're calling out specific personas we're targeting to now create a blue ocean, because as I'm an entrepreneur, if I just saw an ad for a diet, I'm like, whatever. But the fact that they call me out specifically, the entrepreneur diet, now I feel like it's made just for me. Make sense? So for example, the chef quality pans for the busy mom, sizzle, sear, and abuse them. They'll keep their non-stick, right? So that's where using a sophistication, the way to stand out again is now by going a mile deep and calling out specific personas, or what we call identification. All right, that was marketing secrets that the greats of the greats use that now you can use too. As an advertising agency, we have 80 people on my team. We work with a crap ton of brands. Yes, millions and millions and millions to spend. These work. If you practice them, if you study them, and you apply them, you can now take your product and outspend and outbeat your competition. But what's important to understand is these are fundamentals that have been around since the test of time. So as a practitioner, if you master those fundamentals, you can go to any channel, any industry, and you can still win. If you have questions, ask me in the comments. I review all of my comments. I reply to all my comments. But if nothing else, I'll see you in the next video.